Hey guys, welcome back to the Houston Coffee Collective podcast. I think this one, episode 4. As usual, thank you to our sponsors today, Stately, for allowing us to have this beautiful studio space. We turn off the lights, so it gives it more of like an ambiance to it.
Nice.
Also, sponsor Blacksmith, and we're sitting now with Antoine from Greenway. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, how's it going?
Good, pretty good.
Nice.
Pretty good. How are
So,
you?
not too bad. With the recent storms, it's been a little bit troublesome, but obviously not too bad. We're here right now, and we get to shoot this beautiful podcast for everyone out there.
Storms is putting it lightly.
Yes,
It's a nice way to put it.
even yesterday, it was like a random 3-minute shower, and I lost power for 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's a Houston thing that we gotta figure out.
Yeah.
You know, well, a Texas thing that we gotta figure out.
Yeah, big Texas thing. But I'm glad that you came by.
Thanks for having me.
Big fan of the work. We'll get into it, but you were part of the collective at one point. But how did you get into barista work? Because did you always work as a barista or were in coffee and service?
So my sophomore year in college, I started working at Caribou Coffee. And I think it's like a super typical thing that happens with baristas where you become the person that people wants to make their drinks, and people are like, "Oh, I only want Antoine to make my drinks," and I know people call me Twiz. My real name is Antoine. But yeah, so you develop a little bit of confidence from that, and when I was done with school, I came home to Cleveland, and I was going to transfer to a Caribou that was in Cleveland, but that Caribou closed down, and also a bunch of other Caribous at the time closed down. And what opened up in that space was a specialty shop called Phoenix Coffee.
Okay.
And I worked for Phoenix for 8 years.
In Cleveland.
And then got an opportunity to work with one of my mentors down here in Houston.
Okay.
John Matoto. And then he was the head roaster for Greenway at the time.
Nice. So you are kind of well known within the latte art scene. Did you always have a passion for latte art when you started in coffee, or?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would be lying if I said otherwise. But I mean, it's the thing that sparks that connection between you and coffee. Right? Especially me, I was art history major. I was very into art. Anything artistic was what I was into. I used to make music, and for me to be able to translate that to my job at the time was super cool. So
almost feel like a small circle, kind of being fulfilled, because you went to school for art, and then you're working in this medium as service, but you're still doing something artful, and then
exactly. And then you have to shift your focus from being so self-centered with that type of stuff to actually be good at it, right? In order to be good at anything, you have to kind of become more self-aware in your relation to the things around you. And,
right.
Once you understand that latte art is not everything, then you can be better at it, right? Once you understand that the guest that comes into your shop, if you're busy pouring latte art, you don't say hi to them, it doesn't make them feel welcome.
Yeah.
Little things just being hospitable.
Yeah.
From latte art led me into being more hospitable, being a better barista, me being a better person.
And do you think that was your big break in understanding a lot of the roles in service was oh, I'm really good at this, but it's not everything. So it's I need to focus on encompassing a lot of the service traits? Or?
I would say it's 50% that, and then the other half is if you are at work and you're pouring 4 or 5 cappuccinos or flat whites in a row, your coworkers are dude, can you do something other than
just pour,
practice, right?
Yeah.
So I would say early on I was really into pouring and really into practicing, and then once you go through a staff meeting and everyone's kind of mad at you, you're okay,
yeah,
I can. First of all, you're my bad, but also let me just be better.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, you would hope, because there's some people that would hear that and it's well, they just never understood me, and I'm going to be a world champion. I was gonna say in that case, what could you say to someone to break them down, not like emotionally, but just like, yo, what you're doing is kind of like in a selfish way, and if you were to like help your teammates and your coworkers, there would be such a beneficial.
I've learned that you cannot teach self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be something that clicks in a person's mind on their own. But for me, it was just like once I like we literally had a staff meeting about me about me practicing. So I was like, once it was like, because these are all people that I care about, respect, to some degree. I won't say like to the highest degree, but definitely like they were like my family, my work family. You know what I'm saying? And once you have a certain amount of people that you care about, like, hey, like we feel like you don't pull your weight when you're here. Again, that's like an ego thing. Like, okay, I need to be pulling my weight because I know who I am.
Yeah.
And then also like, you don't want to be letting people down while you're on shift. So it comes back to like what I was just saying about like being aware of yourself and in relation to the things around you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not aware of those things or you're not like paying attention to those things, then you will continue to be
Missing pieces in you. Oh yeah.
I think if I were to stay like that, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to learn the things that I've learned. I wouldn't be able to want to continue to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just
I feel like that's a kind of like a weird trait. I wouldn't say weird that way, but it's like I think this is like an odd trait within coffee because the more people get into it and more they start to learn about like the weird like chemistry in coffee, it kind of subtly breaks down a lot of that ego. Even like I would put myself as an example. When I first started, like I only cared about being like the best barista. Like don't stay in my station, don't touch my station, stuff like that. And over the years, I've loosened up a little bit, but it's still to that point where like having a functional bar flow isn't only coming from one person. It has to be everyone around you. It has to be everyone.
It's a whole team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you cannot getting on the subject of being a good barista. Like for me, being a good barista has almost very little to do with being able to produce coffee or latte or any of that stuff. For me, it's like if I come into your shop and you're like, hey, how you doing? Or like, I sit at your bar, you get me a cup of water, or I'm looking at totally different things when I go to visit barista shops. I'm not judging their coffee because everybody has off days. Nobody's coffee tastes amazing all day for an 8 or 12 hour shift.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking at that kind of stuff. I'm looking at like, what table needs to be bussed. Have you been to the bathroom to check them? Like that's the kind of stuff that like, if I'm judging your shop on like how good I think it is, that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at the coffee is like the last thing I'm looking at.
I feel the same way because I would go to coffee shops and half the time I don't really care that much about drinking coffee. It's kind of heresy to say it's just like sometimes when like you drink coffee every day, all day, it's like I just want to go and drink some tea or drink some sparkling water. God forbid tonic water.
You just want to be immersed in a cafe without like having to worry about making coffee for people or like getting coffee out on time for people. You know what I'm saying? You just want to like. I love going to coffee shops. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes I don't even go to drink coffee. I just my wife likes to drink coffee, so like I just tag along with her because I just like going to coffee shops. It has nothing, literally, very minimal to do with coffee.
Do you get recognized a lot in coffee shops?
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know because sometimes I think that it varies. I think sometimes people might know who I am and they don't want to say anything because it's like who wants to like, oh, I know who you are. Like it's like a super weird interaction. You know. But also, I also think that like for the most part, like there's like this whole like coffee celebrity thing. I don't. We make coffee, man. Like there's like. Like we're not celebrities, you know what I'm saying? So like I don't expect anyone to know who I am, or like I don't expect any. I just like to go and like talk to people about like what equipment they're into, like what coffees they're excited about. Like
you just care about like the shop craft in a way.
Yeah.
It's weird because I think we had this conversation a few months ago at a latte art where it's like because I have that thing where like I see you and I'm like, this guy's a fucking big deal. I don't ever go up to you because I feel like I'm always would interrupt you or like just wasting your time.
Dude, I am probably top 10 most boring people on the planet, to be honest with you. I have my son. He's like the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. And I spend 95% of my time with him. And so like, if I'm out, like right now, like if I'm out, it's because like my wife has granted me some time to like, to myself or whatever. So I like to, and if I weren't here right now, I would be at a coffee shop. I would probably be at like Un or Simply or something like that, that for me is, I'm never too
caught up in
the like coffee thing.
Yeah.
Like I like talking to people. I like being around people.
So going back about mentorship in a way, you said that your mentor was John Lozotto? Lozotto.
Yeah. One of a couple, but he was like probably my main one.
Okay. So do you consider yourself to be a mentor to like younger baristas? If people were to look up to you, do you think that you hold a small responsibility to kind of teach them, or do you think that it's up in the air?
I think that I took what John showed me and apply that to like just my everyday life. So like if someone wants to call me their mentor, I think that would be up to them, but I would never, I don't like the idea of being a mentor. Like I'm just a regular dude. I don't think that I can direct anyone in the right direction. All I can do is like give you the list of things that I've learned and like, you can apply that data how you want.
Do you think you're not capable or like how do I say?
Imposter syndrome?
In a way, because you said you don't want to have that title of mentorship, even if people do look at you. But is it because you're afraid of running someone down a bad path, even if your lifestyle or advice could have the possibility of running them down the bad path?
There's probably like a very like the base level is probably imposter syndrome for sure. But even that, it's like at the end of the day, like I don't think that like I personally could steer someone in the wrong direction when it comes as it pertains to coffee. I just am like one of those people that like I don't like being responsible for things that I'm not
wholly responsible.
You know what I'm saying? So like if like I don't like house sitting, I'm not gonna watch your dog. Just because like if something goes awry while it's on my watch, and I'm gonna be like devastated by it. So like I guess it's the fear of devastation. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't particularly do the mentor thing because like I'd rather not be responsible for be the person that you
blame, I guess.
Tell everyone like, you know what I'm saying?
I feel that because like if you or we're like sponsoring or like mentoring someone through like a coffee fest in a way, and then they ended up getting like they can knock out first round. It was like, oh, you didn't teach me shit. And it was like, well, I mean, it's just the way of the game. Sometimes you win. Sometimes...
I actually like that when that happens.
Okay,
because I think that's different. Okay, so like, there's a good amount of people that I have mentored that have had that type of reaction, or they have some type of negative reaction to like where they are, right? And for me, it's like I've only shown you the steps and the golden ways that I've learned to do things, and if that doesn't always translate or apply to everyone, right? So like, and also like I'm a human being, so sometimes like I will learn something in the future that I will contact you and like about that was like 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like I've done that. Like I've hit people up like, hey, I'm like sorry that I did this way. I should have did this the other way. You know what I'm saying? And so it just, it's just a matter of me being okay and comfortable with myself and like the information that I give out. But I think the fear is more so just like I just rather my position be that of someone just having a connection and conversation with people, as opposed to like me being this like mentor figure that's like standing over you to like make sure you're great. You know because I don't think that's like when going back to John, that was never John's philosophy. Point of view. Like his point of view, like, and he'll probably be mad at me that I'm saying this way. His point of view is like he doesn't care about you being a barista at all. Like he doesn't care about you being a good coffee person. He just cares about developing you as a human being. Like that's his whole thing. And like, his methods, 8 to 10 years ago are obviously like you know, we would probably approach him differently now. But at the end of the day, like his passion for what he was doing was very helpful for my development.
Mm-hmm. I guess going back to Houston Coffee Collective, so let me know, or I guess tell me in a way. Sorry. Uh, um, what was your role in your work with the Houston Coffee Collective before this new iteration?
Um,
Or I guess one of the better ways is like, what is one of the notable difference between like the past Coffee Collective and this Coffee Collective?
that's a great question, and I'm gonna humbly say that I was one of the founders, and you know it was only like 4 or 5 of us at the time. We were all connected by Anita, and I will say that what you guys are doing right now is exactly where I saw us being, you know, years ago. Like this whole setup, having official competitions and stuff like that, and kind of having like moving more as like an organization. That's exactly where I thought it would be when we started it, and I think that, you know, I was also a little more impatient, and a little more not nice, right?
Yeah.
So like I ended up, for my own reasons, like leaving, and I think that did nothing but help it out, because now it's like at a way better place than where it was when I left it.
It is strange how not just specifically Houston Coffee Collective is like where these places or like organizations have like ups and downs in a way, or like sometimes even something that could seem like devastational, like the COVID pandemic, where like basically the page was dead for like years, and it wasn't until like Asia brought it back. And
Yeah.
it is strange, not strange, but it is very kind of way like uplifting and hopeful for the coffee community that there are people that like will see something and it was like there's opportunity there and then we can bring back to it, and it's like now it's kind of like gaining enough steam, enough traction to where like we're able, not just because of Asia's hard work, but it's also because of the foundation that you guys laid out there as well, that we're able to like pick up enough traction. It's like, hey guys, we're back. We're here to include everyone from the past, everyone into the future, and it's like hopefully we can gel something to where like everyone benefits. Because like I think I talk about this so much, and I feel like people get tired of it. It was like one of my biggest goals with Houston Coffee Collective is because like seeing Victoria, seeing Kenji, or like Abram, or people that compete, and it's like I want people to not to worry about like, oh, do I have money to spend on $200 Airbnb, $400 flight tickets? I want us to get to a point where we make money to we can just give to people so they can actually travel and go to competitions.
That was definitely one of our goals too. To be honest with you, that was definitely one of the founding points.
Yeah, is because I think I felt like such a nerd about it for such a long time, but now it just kind of like just set in for me. Where like going to these competitions and going and traveling to these competitions, it kind of just does put a lot of pieces together, and it's like, oh, this is why I'm a barista. It's like we can now come here and like have this celebration, even though like someone loses. Like you're almost happy that you get to even have this opportunity to be here, or like you're happy that even if you score them really badly, because I did technical latte art judge, and they score them really badly, it's like, holy shit, you were here, you got here. This is nationals, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I would have shit the bed.
Yeah, yeah. I think that like for me too, and then we can kind of circle back to the mentor question too. Like, seeing Victoria do, and I don't want to single anyone out, but I was really impressed with how they did during competition, and seeing where they started just a short time ago to where they are now. That for me was a part of the reason like why I wanted to start the Coffee Collective.
Okay.
Is to make that, because again, also at the time when we started it, like there was a lot more connective tissue between companies. I feel like I spent most of my days going to other shops that weren't Greenway shops. Especially when I first moved here. So for me, it was like I wanted to make sure baristas that weren't just at Greenway got the opportunity to feel that connection to like or that motivation to go to the any competition, whether
Yeah.
it be Expo or Coffee Fest New York or whatever. I wanted them to have access to that, you know, and I think that was like one of my main reasons for like, especially again, if Anita asked me to do anything, I'm going to do it because Anita's like an angel.
Yeah.
So when Anita hit me up and I was like, yeah, whatever you need, I'm here, you know. So, but that was like what I felt like I was going to bring to the table.
So I guess this is a good opportunity to ask for like, because Coffee Fest is run by SEA, right?
No,
No?
totally separate entity.
Okay. So I guess in a way, it's like, can you help me clarify your thoughts on certain SEA, specifically like curating certifications? Because I've heard, I don't entirely know if this is true, that you just like flat out hate those certifications, or help me,
Okay,
enlighten me.
So I think when it comes to me, anything that I say, even if it's like nice, it comes off, you know, polarizing or like.
It's just a weird thing with like language, honestly.
Right. So like I don't anyone who's a Q grader or you know SEA certified or any
kind of certifications.
Any of those certifications, that's all cool. For me, the main certification that I think helps baristas, and I think this is like where the disconnect comes. For me, the main certification that helps baristas is the coffee science certification. Not only is it important to brewing to help you brewing coffee, but to understand what's happening while you're brewing coffee and to understand how to help you be consistent with your brewing, right? So like,
where can people find more information on coffee science certification? Is that also SEA or
just Google coffee science certification? I think that's literally what it's called.
Okay.
And it's just as much as a Q grade. So it's like the price point is like not important either. But you do have to. It's only like 3 times a year, and you have to fly to, I think like Nashville or something like that, and it's like a week-long course, and it's pretty. It's like, you know, it's pretty hard. So
okay, nice. So as intense of like curating and almost to the same equivalent of like standards and certification.
Like a Q grade certification is not that if you're a green buyer, get a Q grade certification. If you are an importer, if you're doing anything at origin,
the green,
then you need to have that. That's what that certification is for, right? But if you are a barista and you're tasting for defect in your coffee at the shop, that's not going to be helpful for you.
Yeah.
It's good to know, right? It's good to have that information. But you can take that same money that you would spend on that and get your coffee science certification, and that way you understand what's happening with the coffee while you're brewing it.
Okay.
That's really all. I mean, I feel like people can spend the money however they want to spend it, and you know, you have to renew your Q grade certification every year. But yeah, like I always think more of like what's going to help baristas in the shop. And the coffee science certification is like where it's at for me.
We're not saying one is better than the other. It's just like each one has its own place.
Exactly. I personally will never, especially like this sounds crazy. I have a good amount of friends who are Q graders and understand how, you know, what's on the test. I've had a Q grade kit in my house for months. I don't think it's not anything that I couldn't pass in my sleep. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to hate on anyone or anything like that. I'm just saying like it's a test that's based upon noticing very distinct flavors, yes, and but it's not to help you in your shop. It's to help a green buyer or somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like in the green buying process.
Okay. So it's only for certain people then,
right?
In a way,
Yeah. Logically.
I guess we kind of touched about it a little bit, but does being one of like the greatest baristas, or considered one of the greatest by some people in the Houston scene, kind of like weigh on you? Do you feel like you have like an expectation to hold up a standard?
So holding up standards comes from within for me. Has nothing to do with like what people think. And also for me, there's unless I am winning against the people that I consider the greatest of all time, I don't put myself in that category. I do think that I'm very good. I don't think, actually, I don't think that I know that I'm very good.
It's the imposter syndrome.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I don't consider myself one of the GOATs. And I know some of my friends would probably like be mad at me for saying that, but you know, Matthew Bochy won 3 straight Coffee Fests. It's like never, even, like no one's even come close to doing that, right? You got Nicely, who's the OG original GOAT, in my opinion, who like pretty much developed all the styles that we see today that, you know, he doesn't get enough credit for. And, you know, obviously like John, for me, stylistically influenced the way I pour. And so if I'm not like, in my eyes, if I'm not on that tier, then I don't consider myself a GOAT. You know what I mean? I do think I'm like top tier though.
But you don't consider
not GOAT status.
Not GOAT status?
Not GOAT status, yeah.
So you would consider those 3 your GOATs?
I mean, just look what, I mean, historically, even in Houston, right? Like, and this, again, no shade, no this, but people were not as enthused to compete before John got here. People were not, involved in competitions until he showed up and, for lack of a better explanation, started destroying people at throwdowns. And, you know, if you get destroyed enough, you're like, all right, I'm tired of this. I want to beat this dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, someone that comes in and shifts the culture of a city, especially a city as big as Houston, if I'm not doing that, like if I'm not a person that came into Houston and shifted the entire culture of Houston, I don't consider myself a GOAT. Like Nicely shifted the entire culture of coffee. You know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't contributed anything like that yet. I don't think. I think that I have my small circles that I've helped contribute to, but you know, I haven't done anything like on a grand scale like that.
I don't agree with that sentiment, only because like I feel like, I don't know, all throughout media there's always like that that archetype of like the sullen master, that he is like the master of something, but he doesn't go out of his way to show people that he's the greatest. And in a way, he's kind of garnered respect from like more humbler people, and those people that train under him have gone on to make like huge championships. I don't think that makes you any less of the GOAT. It just makes you a GOAT that doesn't want out there to like, it's like the ego thing where like you, not to say that John or Nicely were egotistical in any kind of way, because I've never met them, but it's like there's some people they just
I think they'll be comfortable with me saying that too.
There's some people, actually, you know, this is a good, because going back to Victoria, because I was talking to her yesterday for submissions, were like, some people at Coffee Fest New Orleans were talking about her, like saying that she's a prodigy, but that kind of just diminished her hard work from like Victoria.
Oh, Victoria. Yeah.
That she's been like working for like years at this when she was shit at it. And then her conversations with like Tristan, who's I think is just as good as Victoria, and just like the way they handle themselves in competition might be different. It just shows that people would look at someone more like flamboyant in their personality over someone who's a bit more reserved. Because like Tristan and Victoria are, they both, I've talking to Victoria, she considers herself on the same level as Tristan, but Tristan puts Victoria on this huge pedestal because of that word prodigy being thrown around. And she's like, no, we should not be like scaling each other up. We are baristas and we're here to pour like good pictures.
Yeah. And then, I mean, just speaking of, let's take it off of Tristan and Victoria and just kind of speaking generalities.
Yeah.
I think that like as long as you have a healthy, you know what? I'm gonna keep saying this, a healthy level of self-awareness, you'll be fine, right? So like, in terms of like, you know, affecting culture, right? Like there's been four or five people from Houston to win Coffee Fest, right? That's not something that like, I mean, I think the only two people that have said anything about me in that situation was like Mason and Kenji, but that's not something that I expect them to even do. Like I'm aware of what I contributed, and that's all I need. Like I'm happy to see people do well, And when you are a barista like, Victoria or Tristan, um, having some self-awareness in terms of like what you can contribute is important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, as a judge, like watching Victoria compete and kind of seeing where Victoria started in terms of like when I first started coming around with her and Kenji, just seeing kind of like where she's at mentally is, I think that's for me, that's like the cool part. You know what I'm saying? So like, back to the GOAT thing, like, so for me, when I say that someone comes in and shifts the entire culture, John is the reason why I'm here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, John shifted the culture before I got here, and the people that I've affected have won, but I've only been able to affect those people because of
John,
the way John
mm-hmm.
helped me, right? So that's what I mean. Like, if unless I help someone in a way that's more direct, like directly separate from John, then that's why I don't do the whole GOAT thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I guess going back to Coffee Fest, you're now a judge, permanent judge,
Fingers crossed.
permanent judge
Fingers crossed.
for Coffee Fest. Was
I don't
that
piss off too many people? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Okay.
was that always one of your goals? You always had this passion for lawn care, but it was like judging one of your passions as well.
To be honest with you, judging has been one of my goals for like the last like 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was either Coffee Fest Portland like 2019 or something like that. I don't remember which year specifically, but it wasn't the one that I won, but it was like a couple years afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, man, I really would like to be on the panel, right? And for me, my thought process at the time was very, very selfish and very like, for lack of a better word, it was stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, I'm actively pouring. I know more about what I'm doing when I'm on stage than the people who are judging.
Mm-hmm.
And when you become a judge, you realize how stupid that is, right? Like everyone who competes believes that they're pouring something immaculate, or they're pouring their best,
mm-hmm.
and they're pouring something that us as judges is supposed to see and say, oh wow, that is better than the other thing. And I don't want to give too much away, but like that's not what you're supposed to do. There's 7 points.
Yeah.
You attack the points. Period. There's nothing else. There's no other way around it.
Yeah.
So I think that like being a judge now, especially like as being something that I wanted to do, it's kind of like helped me in the perspective of like, one, you don't always know what you're talking about. Two, when you're a competitor, you think that competing is harder, but judging is 700 times harder than
mm-hmm.
competing. It's way harder.
It's because you have not only the pressure of the baristas, but of your fellow judges to be like, I have to make the right choice or the appropriate choice, I guess is.
It's just, for me, I'm literally breaking down everything that I see.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I see that's put in front of me, I have to judge it. So I don't care what your intention was. I don't care what how long you've been practicing to compete. It has nothing to do with what's put in front of me for me to judge.
How much does deliberation between the judges actually affect whether a judge like change your minds in a pour, or is it all?
So we kind of so Terica's the head judge, mm-hmm. right? So for me, if there's a shaky call, like a shaky point, I refer to the head judge because the head judge is the one that is most equipped to answer any questions, right? Mm-hmm. And the first one I did with Chris DeFerrio, when he was a head judge, that's kind of how we operated. Me and Terica had a shaky point or a question, we deferred to Chris. So for me, there's no really deliberation. It's only just like if you're stuck on something, like, hey, I'm like, which one do you think has creativity and difficulty?
Yeah.
And it's not and, sorry. Mm-hmm. It's not and difficulty. It is creativity or difficulty. Whatever word comes first in the point system is what we go off first. So if it's aesthetic beauty and balance and
Symmetry.
symmetry,
Yeah.
then we're looking at aesthetic beauty and balance first. So
Mhm.
like something that's more balanced could beat something that's more symmetrical.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So yeah,
Are those scores or I guess those criteria always the same for each coffee fest, or do they change?
it's the same.
Okay.
Yeah. All the and then, I encourage all baristas to study the point system on the website. I am also like considering like filming
Educational.
like a breakdown of each point
Mm-hmm.
because I really think that a lot of people don't understand the points. I think that they have an idea or they have something close to an idea of the points, but they're just not. It's not hitting home yet, you know.
Or there's like a small critical information that there could be missing that could just unlock. It's like, oh, I've been doing this pour this certain way, and now I can do it this way because that means more points. Or
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
yeah,
If I'm being honest, oftentimes I think that what hurts most baristas is milk texture, and that sounds like such an old head thing to say, but like every time I'm like, yo, you could have easily got line clarity if your milk texture was better. You know what I'm saying? So
I guess kind of going in a way of going back to like a SCA. I did want to ask, like, what are your thoughts on like big organizations and like their importance in the growth of like coffee culture? Do you think that, I guess, kind of going back from I guess piggybacking a little bit on the certification, with like SCA does have like curated certifications, but you also have like coffee science, like by like a smaller company. Do you think that we really need these higher organizations to grow the coffee culture in a way?
I think everything that's a part of the ecosystem right now is super necessary. I think big organizations like SEA, Coffee Fest, any of the, like, you know what I'm saying, I think they're all necessary and they all contribute to the well-being of the community. Obviously, we're all human beings and nothing is perfect, and we can all sit around and judge everybody for what they feel like could be done better, but at the end of the day, they're not doing it, right?
Yeah.
So like at the end of the day, you have people upset about whatever is happening with SCA, and SCA is doing its best to keep coffee culture alive, contribute to coffee culture, be the standard for coffee culture, and operate in a way that makes them be able to do that, right? And at the end of the day, like, one of my friends, he calls out the CEO or the, not CEO, but the head,
Acting head or director head?
director of SEA for his salary, which is like $647,000 a year or something like that. And like when you look at other organizations that are similar to SEA, like that's a very low salary. That's a very, very low salary. So like I think that like people can have their opinions and that's fine. Like you can be mad or you can be upset about I don't know. Is Eversys did they take over for the latte art competition? I can't remember, but
LAC or
the new espresso machine company that won the bid for the latte art
I
competition.
don't entirely know if they got in. I know people were upset about it, but
It is a new machine for this year's competition.
okay.
So people are upset about it, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's how it's always operated. It's
Yeah.
always like one company bids, and whoever has the highest bid, that's what we go with. Like that's how it works.
Maybe you can help me understand why is there an issue with so much like with Eversea winning the bid? Is it because they have like automatic like?
This is a super automatic machine, and so people are saying that basically that you are removing the craft element from the latte art competition. Again, old head, right? So for me, like, it's never about the barista. It's never about the tool. It's about the barista.
Yeah.
So figure it out,
Yeah.
right? Like, if it's something that you're not used to using, fine. You should be well-rounded enough to use it because one day you might have to use it. One day we might all be using super automatic machines, right?
Yeah, because like maybe this is a hot take, but it's like all espresso machines, if you put it down to the basics, they're all the same thing. They all put pressure into the steam wand. They all pull shots. It's like
I think that's just a fact.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not a hot take, it's a fact, right? So like for me, it's like I understand the frustration and the outrage, but at the end of the day, these organizations contribute greatly to the greater good of the culture, right?
Mhm.
And again, none of them are perfect, and obviously, like things could always be better, but at the end of the day, like they have contributed to people's livelihoods
Yeah.
more than any coffee company could, right? Like I benefit greatly from winning Coffee Fest.
Mhm.
Lim Butler benefited greatly from winning the USA
National
Championship,
conferences,
right?
yeah.
So like, um, it's a necessary evil, I guess. Even though I don't think it's evil, I think it's just like I think it's cool.
This is because me and Asia sometimes talk about this. We're like, we have the same fear sometimes. We're like, we don't know what our trajectory really is. Like, we know we want to grow and we want to be able to support as many people as possible, but we don't know if we get to a point where like we make a decision that we think it has like really positive outcomes, and then people is like, oh, you guys did this,
So,
and
like,
don't you know how much it affects this certain people or community or this certain I was just like, this shop. Oh, you're sponsoring this one shop that is direct
Has a-
competition with this shop, and
yeah,
there's something like that. And
yeah.
it's like, well, guys, I don't know. We're not out here like picking favorites. Like, we try to accommodate as much people as possible.
Exactly. And this is where you just like stick to your tenets.
Mm-hmm.
You stick to the things you believe in, and you stand on like how you're raised, right?
Yeah.
So like,
We stand on business.
no. Well, I'm just like if your organization was started for a great reason, and it's to be helpful to as many people as you can.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be people who don't get helped that look at you like, but they didn't help me. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, like, you can't run your business or run your life that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, that person that says that, they could care less if you go home and you don't have lights on at your house.
Mm-hmm.
They're not calling and checking on you to see how your grandmother's doing.
Yeah.
Like, they don't care about any of that stuff. They're just like on the internet complaining, right? So for me, it's like, if your organization is morally sound to how you want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
and you're accommodating and contributing as much as you can, for me, that's good enough.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, like, again, like, the people who have anything to say, they're not going to be contributing to your well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my grandmother was in the hospital and people were complaining about me winning Coffee Fest, right? Like, my grandmother was
ill, whatever,
unaliving, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm looking at people on Instagram like, he shouldn't have won that, or he should, like, bro, like,
in the crudest of term, get off my tip.
Well, it's like, once you like look at it from that perspective, like, where that person knew my everyday life or had some type of connection to me, they probably wouldn't be saying that, right? Or if they were to see me in person, they also wouldn't be saying that.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, I just kind of like let that kind of stuff go, and I kind of just try to focus on, you should focus from like, okay, like, now I just need to help the people that are directly around me, and for an organization like the Coffee Collective, helping Houston out is first and foremost.
Yeah.
So, and everybody in Houston will not be able to be helped by the Coffee Collective, but that's not the point. Is to help as many as you can.
Because this is how I think about it. It's like, I've heard this years ago, and I guess it's just been internalized in my head. Where it's like, a rising tide lifts all boats. So it's like, if an organization like Houston Coffee Collective is out here, like, I guess in a way, growing the coffee community, that means more people are going to coffee shops and more people are naturally finding coffee shops. Even if we have like the coffee map, even if there's a coffee shop that we haven't worked with or made an event with, you guys are still in the map and people are able to still like find them and go there. And it's like, our popularity in like the scene in coffee, getting more people in coffee is just the goal. And then having them visit every coffee shop is like the secondary goal in a way.
Yeah.
Not to say that we don't want people to visit coffee shops. It's just like,
For sure.
yeah.
But also part of it is helping baristas.
Yeah.
Right? Like, well, I guess having more guests helps baristas indirectly, but like,
Tip your baristas.
also, or don't.
Yeah.
But obviously, yes, tip your baristas.
Yeah.
But,
if you can, yeah.
I'm just a fan of, like, if you have a business that you stand on in terms of like, you're putting out quality, you are, you have your, whenever you have a business plan, they always ask you to have three
Core tenants in a way.
core tenants, right? So like as long as you're standing on your core tenants, your core values, I'm not going to be the one to judge you.
Yeah.
And then if I do, I'm going to keep it to myself because I don't care enough to get on the internet and say, why did you guys make that call? It's like so stupid. Why did you make that call? Well, did you see it? Did you see it in person? Or did you see it on a screen that has, the contrasted depth of adjustment?
Yeah. Because it is something like, even we're talking about CloudFest New Orleans, we're like I could see it on the screen, and it's like even being live in person and seeing it on the screen itself is so much different than when you actually see it on the table.
Yep.
And like going to local throwdowns, and it's the exact same thing. Like sometimes the color is a little bit off. The
That's
lighting.
another thing too. That's another distinction that I need people to make it to understand is Coffee Fest is not a throwdown.
Yeah.
It's a totally separate type of competition, right? Like coffee throwdown, you pick the one that's prettier, or you pick the one that is more aesthetically pleasing, right? Or that you think is more aesthetically pleasing. But that's only one point at Coffee Fest. So like, I need people to understand that there's a distinction between something that just is prettier and something that has like 7 or 5 other points that are better. You know what I mean? So
I guess in a way that kind of goes back to is like people need to understand what they're being judged on. It's like 5 or 7 point system.
Yeah.
I have to look at. Oh, do you think that the growth in coffee right now is like self-inflated because like social media, or do you think it's just like a natural growth? Because this is something I think about. Because like
it's definitely because of social media, and I'm thankful for that. I don't want to be the one that hates on it, like all my old head friends. But
there's some things that are good and some things.
But I will say that it's grown in a way that is creating less effective connection to it, right? Like content creators, I applaud them. Happy that you make your living doing that. That's awesome. Like I wish I had it in me to do that. But it's not creating like a lasting connection to it. I think it's like more like trendy, and that's okay. But for me, as a person who's been doing this since 2006 and has like a ridiculously absurd connection to it, when I see that someone who has never worked in the cafe just make a video about them pulling a shot of espresso and they can monetize that and make more money than I made the whole month. It makes me a little salty, but also like that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, I mean, because in a way, it's like, well, you guys kind of beat me to the game in a way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess I have one more question. I feel I kind of waited for the end to this only because I feel like it didn't fully fit within the given podcast. But congratulations on being a father.
Thank you.
I guess in a way, like, what is one of the biggest lessons you have learned, not just for your barista career or coffee career, but like in life? Like, what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned from fatherhood?
Patience. That's a lie, actually. Sorry, I don't even know why I just said that.
You just gave me the textbook answer.
Yeah, because I said patience because you have to be patient with your kid, but it's like literally maybe impatient in every other aspect of life. So I feel like that's a lie.
Okay.
But when you have a child, you have to, your level of like patience has to be like astronomical. Like, just because like, again, your kid they don't know anything. They're just here. You're basically programming them as they grow up,
Yeah.
And so, having to, not get upset if he like slaps me in the face and literally with his razor sharp fingernails, scratches my face. I'm like, any other person that did that would be furious. You know what I'm saying? But with your kid, you have to be like, okay, this is like some little kid stuff that you don't understand because you're not a little kid anymore, and you have to just like you have to show them the alternate side of that. Like you can't meet their aggression with aggression. So patience, I have learned patience because I'm very also impatient person, but it also like increased my impatience for everything else.
I guess in a way, maybe this is dumb, but you would consider yourself a bit of a mentor to your child, right?
I'm the ultimate mentor to my
Yes.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then do you feel like there is some level of connectivity between like mentoring someone in some levels of service and like mentoring your child? Obviously, not completely one to one.
No, because there's not one person that I've ever mentored that I care about as much as my kid. So like, no, like that. My kid is the one person that I'm like, I'm gonna be your mentor.
Yeah.
You know, like I obviously have to wear many hats, but like, you know, I think anyone else who I've like trained or helped or anything like that, that's literally what you can call it. Like I just like helped or trained them or like gave them some information. But my kid is the one where I'm like, don't put your hand on the stove, it's gonna burn you.
Yeah.
You're gonna do it? Okay, go do it. Okay, you burn yourself, now let's figure out how to not do it.
Yeah.
You know, further. I think I don't think that I think that like a person who isn't a parent could make that connection. But once you become a parent, you understand that there's just no possible way that you could connect those two things.
Okay.
They're like very, very far apart.
What is probably one of like the, obviously you mentioned don't put your hand on the stove, but like what is probably the biggest lesson that you would want to impart on your children? It could be any kind of general, or it can be
I
like.
just want my kid to like be nice. Like I don't care if like my kid is like, you know, a genius. I don't care if he, you know, plays in the NBA or. I just want him to be a nice human. You know, like I want him to treat people with respect. I want him to like take care of his mom, and I just want him to be like a good person. I don't know how I'm gonna help contribute to that because that's a very, very there's a lot of layers in that. You know?
It sounds so simple, but when you really think about it, it's like super complex.
It's crazy complex.
Yeah.
And so like it's just I just want him to be a good person.
Yeah.
I would prefer him to like not be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like that would be great. If my kid grew up and he was an asshole, I can not exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's my main goal.
Nice. Well, I feel like that's a good way to end. Unless you have anything else to say or want to impact any final lessons on people.
Hi, Mom.
Love you guys.
Hi, Megan. Hi, Miles. Hi, Dad. Hi, Lisa. No, I think I would leave with just saying I think that people should be more self-aware and with themselves in relation to things around them, and that entails just being a better person to the people around you, a better person to yourself, and I think that takes a level of understanding and grace, and I think that that's kind of what as a community we're lacking, and stop saying the word inclusive.
Okay. Nice. Well, Antoine, you know what? How did the nickname Twiz come about?
Twiz. Okay, it's a funny story. My best friend, one of my best friends, Paul, his dad is my uncle Paul. He's a hilarious dude, and whenever Snoop was on his second run, he was doing like the izzle, fizzle, shizzle thing. So my friend's dad used to call me Twizzle, and then it went from Twizzle to Twizzo, and then my best friend just started calling me Twiz. So
Okay.
it's like a family thing because like they're like my second family. And I just was like, this is the name I feel most comfortable with, and I started calling myself that.
Okay. Well, Twiz, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. It was actually a really lovely conversation, but
Right
unfortunately it has to end now. Thank you guys for watching. Unlucky. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. Follow Twiz and Greenway and Blacksmith.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Squad.
Let's go. See you guys later.